Poke out of there, please. Thanks. All right, here we go.
Donuts. Donuts. Within reach. Look how Mom got to eat.
What? I know. I got root and nut trail mix from the doctor.
Mmm.
Same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer. The State Farm agent sees more.
All right, you are on.
Your State Farm
Is this
agent
good?
is here to get to
Yeah,
know
that'll be
who
fine.
you are, so they can help
John
out.
on vacation?
He is. They're over in Dallas,
Oh, man.
visiting some family.
0726. That's 525
Two, me.
Well, I knew you were on vacation, what?
Last
week or
week.
two?
Yeah, we went to Myrtle Beach.
You know, my son lives in Charleston.
Does he? They get some pretty good wind and rain.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We beat the hurricane there by about 2 hours, and it was. I mean, it was just heavy rains and winds,
Yeah,
and
that's what he.
the storm surge was really the biggest thing.
They have problems in Charleston with flooding, street flooding, because it actually sits at right on sea level.
Yeah, that would be it.
And parts of town where it sits a little bit lower,
Yeah.
it's just like a bowl, especially downtown.
Let's see.
You doing okay?
Yeah, I am. Other than this wonky eye I got going on.
Oh, well, it's probably allergies or something.
I think so.
All right, y'all ready? There we go. We are broadcasting live here on this, what is it, Wednesday? Yeah,
Yes.
Wednesday morning. I think
Hump day.
everything kind of runs together. Adam Stocks, Therese Mashburn, and we're Facebooking live as well to make sure everything works hunky-dory. Dr. Martin, say something for me if you
Oh,
want.
good morning.
Hey, good morning. And let me make sure yours is working, Therese.
Is it
All right.
working?
Yes, it is working. We're on Facebook Live as well. Facebook Live is 94.1 FM The River. And Dr. Martin, big announcement coming out yesterday, especially for if you've got kids in the Pell City school system, the AB schedule.
Yes.
We saw Shelby County come out with it about a week or so ago. We've seen other school systems. Oxford, I think, announced it several weeks back. And yesterday, you officially announced the AB schedule. So what we typically do, if you'll just kind of talk about what it is, and then we're going to throw a bunch of questions at you. And if you're watching on Facebook Live as well, if you've got some questions, then put them over here on the comment section. And as we have time, I'll throw them at Dr. Martin. But we got a lot of questions, so let's see how many you can answer to start off with.
Okay, the AB schedule is actually being utilized in grades 7 through 12, and it's basically a numbers issue. We're very fortunate that we had 74% of our students decide to go the traditional route as far as going to school, but at the same time we faced many challenges there, and a lot of the challenges was is we could not appropriately social distance to the extent that we needed to with the numbers we had, especially in grades 7 through 12, and we all know that those students are a little bit I'd say a little bit more grown than our kindergartners and first graders. But we had in our high school, we had 33 students in some of our classes at the high school, even after trying to readjust numbers and things. And it had gotten to the point we really realized about the middle of last week that we had an issue with numbers, and we were trying to adjust those numbers. But honestly, if we'd have done very much more adjusting, it wouldn't have been in the best interest of educating students. And our goal, like I said all along, is to keep our students safe and healthy. And when we went through the process, I think everybody knows that my philosophy is I think it's very important that we have students in school. I want students in school, and and this was a choice that we didn't want to make, but this was a choice that we just really didn't have a choice at that point in time to do that. And a lot of people ask, well, how come you're not doing it for pre-K through 6, but you're doing it for 7, 12? Well, the reason being is the numbers. We were able to get the numbers, at least 24 or less in a classroom. in kindergarten through 6th grade. Sometimes those numbers, in most cases, those numbers were down in the teens, which is a lot more favorable. You know, and I would say that there were very few cases where there were 20 or above in K through 6. So we, you know, and the thing too is we're also still having to serve our virtual students, our remote students too, and that was the other challenge there, because we're still having to serve those students also in that process. But again, it was a choice that I didn't really want to make. You know, and fact is you know, we had to, you know, we waited as long as we could feasibly and be able to get the word out so that people would know what we're doing. I know several systems jumped on it very early. Some of them jumped on it very early before they even actually looked at some hard numbers, because the fact was it's a lot easier, but we were willing to try to go through and do the work before we actually had to make that decision.
We're talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, the superintendent of the Pell City School System here on 94.1 FM The River. Also Facebooking Live, a lot of folks watching in right now and questions already coming in. What is the first day for Group A, first day for Group B, and the first week? Who does what?
Okay, first day for Group B is actually the 21st. Group B actually comprises last names beginning in M through Z. Group A comprises groups, last name begins with A through L, and Group A will start on that following Monday. And Group A, I believe, and I have the calendar listed on our webpage, Group A goes Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of that week, and then Group B goes Thursday and Friday of that first full week we're back. And what we do is traditionally, when we did the Group A and Group B, Group A would primarily go on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Group B would primarily go on Thursdays and Fridays, and Wednesdays would be alternating throughout the calendar.
Okay. So again, the first week, the first day, the 21st, is a Friday, so that's Group B.
Yes.
And then the following week, which is going to be the 23rd on Monday, is
Yep.
Group A. They go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Group B goes Thursday,
Correct.
Friday.
Correct.
Then the following week, it's Group A, Monday, Tuesday, Group B, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and they alternate back
Yes.
and forth like that.
Yes.
Okay.
And the calendar is posted on our webpage
Mhm.
with the alternating calendar. And if you will, just refer to that. You know, we tried to put as much information out as we could for our students. But the students, you know, one of the questions that I know is probably being asked too is, what are these students going to do on the days that they're not in school? Well, what they're going to do on those days is they're actually going to get some form of blended learning during those days they're not in school. Whether it be through assignments and things that they have to do at home, or things that may be emailed to them or done through the Google Classroom platform during the days that they're not in school.
Talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, superintendent of the Pell City School System. Again, you can watch all this, and when we're done with the interview, you can go back and watch it as well and get all the answers. Our Facebook page is 94.1 FM The River. So on the option where you're virtual only, if you're doing virtual only, then it's basically a third party that is going to be teaching those students. Is that correct?
What we have is they're actually assigned one of our faculty members that's actually going to be their teacher of record, and it's going to be the teacher that's going to be the person who's going to be communicating with them through that remote and virtual learning platform. We're actually using the Schoology and Schools PLP as the resources to deliver that instruction, but they will have a assigned teacher.
Okay, so they'll have an assigned teacher. So, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. Again, there's a lot of questions, just trying to clear
Yes,
them
I
up for
understand.
myself as a parent and all the other parents. So on the A-B schedule, if you're not doing full virtual, on the A-B schedule, when on the 2 days or 3 days that you're off that week, are there, and you talked about it earlier, I realize that, is there going to be specific stuff that has to be done virtually, or is that up to the teachers that they're going to the classes, up to them to determine what happens on those off days?
It will be the teachers. It will be their teachers that they will go to classes for, and those teachers will be the ones that will provide those assignments to support that learning.
All right, I have a question, and this is going to go back probably for the younger kids. If you are in a classroom where the partitions are up,
Yes.
will those kids have to also wear a face mask the whole day as well?
Okay, what we're trying to do is provide as many opportunities as we can for the students to be able to at least take those masks off some during that time. And you know, when they're behind those partitions, there will be opportunities where they'll be able to do that. Because I'll tell you, every time I wear a mask, I feel like I can hear myself talk. And you know, and we even are allowing our students to wear those clear shields if they choose rather than a mask. You know, a lot of our folks are doing that.
So on the face masks for everybody, for all the schools involved, I know the last time we had you up here, which, you know, a lot of things changed
Yes, it
in
does.
24 hours, let alone a week or two since we had you up here. But it was depending on what I forgot what
The level.
The levels, the 4 levels.
Yes.
Depending on what happens in the classrooms, in the hallways, the lunchroom, stuff like that. Is that still in effect?
Well, we still have that, but however, it's being superseded by the order from the governor, the health order, where there is a mask order. So that does supersede anything in the plan when we do get that. But the plan is still the plan. And if we get to a point where the mask order does expire, then we're going within the parameters of our plan.
Going back to the younger ones who are going to be in school 5 days a week, the pre-K through sixth grade,
Yes.
which is all the elementaries as well as Williams Intermediate. Those are the schools. What is it? Any differences in class? I know you talked about it. The classrooms, are the teachers, are the kids going to move any in classes, at lunchroom, stuff like that, hallways? What's it going to look like?
What we have is we've developed a system of trying to limit as much movement as we can. And we even did that in our 7th and 8th grade schools also, where a lot of cases where our teachers change the classes rather than the students. However, our students still need to go to PE. And one thing we're trying to encourage is our PE classes, we're going to do as much as we can outside. It's a lot easier to social distance. Plus, I'll tell you this, when you're coming back to a classroom, they need to get outside and have a chance to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something that I think is very important for our children, is to get outside as much as we can and play as much as we can. And the thing is it's really good for them. But the other thing that we're looking at too is that, you know, with our cafeterias is like, for example, a lot of our elementaries are doing this, where our kindergarten, our pre-K, our kindergarten, and our 1st grade are eating in the cafeteria, and like our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade pick it up and take it back to the room. A lot of our elementary schools are doing that. And the reason being is it's impossible to have a 5-year-old carrying food down the hall. By the time they get back to the classroom, there's a high likelihood they may have an empty tray and a trail of food behind them. So that's one of the reasons we're doing that too. But what we're trying to do too is anytime we have our cafeterias, when our cafeterias are in operation, we're operating at a 50% occupancy in that cafeteria, mainly to try to spread our students out as much as possible.
Talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, Superintendent of the Pell City School System, also on Facebook Live. I'm going to get to some of the questions here in just a second, several of them already being sent in. What about the 7th grade on up to the high school? How are lunches and classrooms and changing classrooms? What's that going to look like?
Okay, well, in our high school, we're obviously going to have to change classes. And you know, the fact that we have roughly about 25% of our children at the high school, are going virtual, going remote. So those numbers are reduced there. However, with us going this AB schedule, it's reduced by even more. So it's going to help us as far as in social distancing and changing of those classes. At high school, we added an extra lunch period, mainly so that we could try to spread our students out in the cafeteria as much as possible, social distance as much as possible. In our junior highs, like for example, our history and our English teachers are just changing rooms rather than students changing rooms, and we're trying to reduce the numbers of students in the hall by at least 50% or more in transitions, and that's mainly because we're trying to keep our students from being just piled up on top of each other. I mean, that's something that we're really trying to do, and we've really worked hard on that. As you know this, as we've gone through this whole process, it's been a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a target that's consistently moving, and everything is consistently changing. And you know, and I'm the type of person that I believe in making a decision and us staying with the decision, us doing what we need to do. But this has challenged that because all the parameters have changed consistently, and you have to be willing to adjust. And the thing that we've always tried to do is there's three things that we've always focused on throughout the whole process: health, safety, and instruction. Those are the three things that we've really tried to focus on. And we've kept that the top priority every time we would do any type of adjustments to any plans. And like I said, I think, and I've said this over and over, the best place for a child to receive a quality education is in a classroom with a teacher delivering dynamic instruction. That's the best place. There's no substitution for that in my book.
Let me throw some of the questions at you that we have, and some of these I may condense a little bit and simplify. What about households that have kids with two different last names and they're in the two different categories?
Well, and I know that's a challenge, but when we set the parameters, we had to set the parameters and have an actual cutoff. And unfortunately, I know that we're going to have situations like that. There's really not much we can do at this point, because then when we start making exceptions for things, then where does those exceptions stop? It could be, well, so and so's my ride, or so and so is not my brother or sister, but they live in my house, and it just expands. And we had to set some pretty definite parameters, and sometimes those parameters do create unfortunate situations, and that just happens to be one of them.
Chromebooks, are those being passed out? Who's getting them? How are they being passed out? How are they going to be used?
Okay, Chromebooks, our schools are actually handling, our individual schools are handling the Chromebooks. If someone needs a Chromebook, we are definitely going to issue them a Chromebook. We've actually working on a system right now at each of the individual schools, and they just need to contact their schools regarding Chromebooks. But we are issuing Chromebooks to the students who need them. All
right, a couple other questions here. And again, if you've got some questions you'd like posed to Dr. Martin, Superintendent of the Pell City School System, on our Facebook page, 94.1 FM, The River. Those that are doing virtual learning, will they get an email with information how to set it up?
Yes, they'll be receiving some information regarding that in the coming week. Right now, at this point in time, our teachers are to report this Friday. Teacher Institute's Friday. We're actually doing this. We're actually live streaming Teacher Institute from the SEPA to the individual schools, because our teachers are going to go to the individual schools rather than congregating in the SEPA for Teacher Institute. And that's another thing that we've had to adjust within the last couple of weeks due to the pandemic, and trying, like I said, promote health and safety. But the thing is, they'll be receiving information from the school regarding that, regarding virtual schools and some of the things that they're going to need on that. Another thing I wanted to mention too is that Alabama has a program right now for students who are on free and reduced lunch. And I passed this out to our principals last week during the principals meeting. It's actually a Alabama broadband connectivity program where they can get a voucher to get broadband internet through the governor's office.
And we actually had, that was my next question, we've had several people asking about what if they don't have internet. So this is specific for them.
Yes, and this is a program where they can do that. So what they need to do is I've given that out to our principals and everything, and we'll probably have something on our webpage in the next day or two regarding that. But that's a program that's through our governor's office, and it's actually came from the CARES Act funding through the federal government to provide vouchers for our students that need connectivity.
How about breakfast? How's that going to work this year?
Okay, right now it varies depending on the school, but I will say that we're still serving breakfast like as we've always done. I know that some of our schools are doing like a grab and go type breakfast thing in the cafeteria. Some have chose to try to do it in the cafeteria, but it's depending. We left that up to our individual school sites.
Okay, here's another one. If someone chose virtual, but now that the model has changed and wishes to do the AB schedule, is that still possible?
Well, right now, if they chose virtual, we need them to stay virtual for the remaining, to the end of the semester. And the reason being is that it was a challenge right now at this point just to get our numbers where we need them to be. And we couldn't get them there, and that's why we went to the AB schedule.
Okay, and we're having some people send some questions, and we've already answered some of these, so if I don't ask your question, then it's probably already been asked and answered by Dr. Martin, so you can go back in the interview when this is done, and we posted it on our Facebook page, and you can get these specific answers. Let's see, how about, will the students get instruction the first week or so of school on the new platform for learning at home?
Okay, our technology department and our school level building techs are actually working on something right now to provide an orientation on that, an online orientation regarding the Schoology and schools PLP. So that will be forthcoming.
All right, and I've kind of held off on this. Let's talk some athletics and extracurriculars at this point. We were talking about it earlier this morning. I don't know if you heard us talking or not, but Auburn High School.
Yes.
They have come out and said they're limiting it to just 25 to 30% capacity, no general admission ticket sales for football. What have you guys decided what we're doing Pell City High School football, who can get in, how you get in, all that good stuff on a Friday night?
Okay, and that's going to be a huge challenge. Right now at this point we're still reviewing it. Right now we have our first few games are on the road.
Mm-hmm.
We actually start the season on the road. We actually begin with Leeds not this Friday, but next Friday, I believe. What is it, the 28th?
28th, yeah. The first home game for Pell City isn't until September the 18th.
Yes. So we have quite some time to work through that. I know a lot of schools don't have that luxury that we do in that regard, because of the fact that it's a little over a month before we have our first home game. So we're actually right now still reviewing the information. I know that the Alabama High School Athletic Association pretty much just left it up to the local school districts. But one thing I would say that I do not want to do is, like, for example, if your child's playing football, you need to be in there watching them play. If your child is cheerleading, you need to be in there to watch them cheer. If your child's in the band, you need to be in there to watch them play too. I mean, those are things that I would not want to tell a mama or a daddy that, hey, you can't come because we're limiting this. And part of a Friday night is participation in those activities, but also it's a point where your student body can come together to support each other. I mean, and that's something that's very important to me, and it is an evolving challenge in this. It's also a time for your community to come together and support their local high school. Friday nights and at high schools in Alabama are huge community gathering opportunities, and and that's something that's going to be a challenge for all of us as we go forth with this. There's some schools that, I don't know where the state mask order is going to go after the 31st of August, but the other thing is going to be is how are you going to enforce a mask order at a football game? Mm-hmm. Especially when people are going to concession stands and things of that sort, and they're eating concessions and drinking Cokes from the concession stand. Are you going to say in between bites you cover up and put your mask on? That's a challenge too. And how do you effectively social distance at a football game? So those are a lot of things that we're actually reviewing all the data on, and there will be information coming out on that probably just roughly around Labor Day time frame that we're going to get something out.
All right. What about special needs students? A couple of people have asked about special needs students. How are they going to be handled?
Okay. We are following their IEP. However, there may be situations where we do have to revisit the IEP, but what I would encourage anyone with a special needs student to do this is to contact our special education department or contact the school regarding specific information, because everybody's IEP is different. So I can't sit here and give a blanket statement about an IEP. So those, if you have any specific needs or specific questions, contact either our special education department at the central office or contact your schools. And you'll get more information relevant to your specific situation.
Talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, Superintendent of the Pell City School System, announcing the AB schedule on Tuesday afternoon. So talking about that and a lot of other things, obviously. What about buses? Anything, masks on buses? What's the bus situation?
Okay, the bus situation, and that is the largest challenge and will continue to be the largest challenge. I've said that from the onset of this, because there's no way you can appropriately social distance on a bus.
Mm-hmm.
There just isn't. But right now, under the state mask order, there are masks required on buses, and that's something that we have to do. So masks will be required on buses when we begin the school year. The one thing I did say earlier was this, is that, and we're still doing this, if you're from the same household, you're sitting together. You're sitting in a section of the bus, or your group's going to be sitting in close proximity with each other. I know this from experience. My bus driver probably would not have wanted me and my two younger brothers sitting together on the bus. But unfortunately, in this situation, that's what we have to do. And we would have to learn to get along, even though we had to live together. We didn't always get along.
And it's going to happen. What happens when the kid gets on the bus on a wrong day? It's going to happen. You know it's going to happen.
Yeah, it probably will. And that's a challenge that we're going to have. And then what they're going to have to do is, we're not going to, if they get on the bus and get to school, they just need to call somebody, get them, come pick them up. I mean, it's going to happen, and we know that. I think once we get used to it, I'm hoping by the time we get used to it, that this thing is past us and we can start getting back to normal, or at least closer to normal. But the thing is, I know there's going to be, probably in the first week or two, there's going to be some of those types of situations.
Now let me back up one more question, going back to the special needs students. Will they be going 5 days, or will they be on the AB? How's that?
Right now, at this point, we're operating on an AB with them also, unless there's something specific or pertinent to their IEP where they have to be there every day. And if there is, then we're going to make those adjustments for our special needs students, because the fact is the IEP takes precedence.
Okay, and if a parent or guardian has a question about that, the person needed to contact is whom?
Okay, we have Stacy Weaver's our special education director at our central office. The number is 205-884-4440. And she's our special education director. And then I would say this: start with your schools first, and start with them first, and then after that, call Stacy Weaver, and she will try to guide you in the right way.
All right. As we continue our conversation with Dr. Jimmy Martin, Superintendent of the Pell City School System, what happens, not if, but when a student tests positive for COVID? What happens to the classroom, to the teacher, to the school?
Okay, and a lot of it depends on the exposure. What we've had, and I've said this from the get-go, there are going to be shutdowns. There will be shutdowns. There will be people sent home. There will probably be groups of people sent home. And the thing is that I've made no secret of that from the time even from the time when we were developing this plan. I said that was going to happen. And when we do have a student test positive, there's a protocol on the last page of our reopening schools plan. We're going to follow that protocol. And the thing too, as we look at this, is the exposure window is if they have been within 6 feet of someone for greater than 15 minutes. That's how the Centers for Disease Control defines a confirmed exposure. And if we have that, we have to go back and track where that student sat in the classroom. And the students need to get used to this. You're going to come in your classroom and you're going to sit in it's going to be an assigned seat every day. And the teachers are going to give our nurses and everything, they're going to give us seating charts. That way we can and we're actually going to get seating charts on buses too. For the actual reason is that we may have to go back and trace where that student was and things of that sort to determine how and what extent do we have to tell people they have to stay home for the 14 days. And there will be situations where we may have to basically tell an entire classroom, hey, you're home for 14 days.
You hear a big cheer, yay! That's what's going to happen.
There'll be some of those. There'll be some telling me, why are you sending us home when we don't have anything? We'll have both sides of the. I found this to be the case in this situation. No matter what decision you make, it is wrong.
Yes.
That's what I've always been told. You know, it's wrong to both sides of the coin. But I will say this: there will be situations where some classrooms, and there may be situations if we have multiple cases that we'll end up having to shut down specific schools.
If a classroom shuts down, has to go home, whatever, and or a school shuts down, the virtual learning part that will now become part of that class or that school.
Yeah, it'll become that part of they will go into the true blended model.
Okay, so they'll go. So who will be in charge of their virtual at that point?
Be their classroom teacher.
Okay, all right. So they'll be on
They'll
a daily.
still have the same teacher.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is kind of keep it as seamless as we can by keeping the same teachers with them throughout each point in the process. So when a student comes in and so-and-so's their teacher, that's going to be their teacher. And that's really what we're trying to do, trying to keep it as, because I think if we have too much, there's going to be some disruption anyway. And if there's any way we can minimize the disruption, we're going to try to minimize it. And when you are jumping teacher to teacher, depending on the situation, it creates chaos, and we don't need that.
What are the requirements on the teachers as far as what they have to wear when they're in the school, in the classroom?
Okay, a lot of our teachers have chosen to wear the shields. Mainly, a lot of them have said that they're going to wear the shields, but they either have to wear the shields or the mask, one. And some may choose to wear both. That's fine too. But right now, you know, a lot of them have told me they wanted to wear the shields. They like the shields. And I think that they like them a little bit better because of the fact when you're doing, when you're working with developing readers and you're working with phonics and things of that sort, they can actually physically see how you form the words with your mouth and things of that sort in our early grades and developmental readers.
Field trips this year. Well, are there going to be any?
Well, right now, in the plan, and I've said this, is there's no field trips up until November 1st, and unless something changes, that's going to be extended.
Talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, the superintendent of the Pell City School System here, talking about the AB schedule that they announced yesterday.
Now, on your virtual school, is it a typical school day, the same amount of hours and everything, where I guess parents are just going to have to make a makeshift type desk and school setting area in their home, so it's going to be the same length of time as if they were in the classroom?
A lot of that is going to depend on several factors. Like, for example, there will be days where they'll have Zoom meetings with their teachers, and then there'll be a little bit of independent work in that also. So their day may look totally different. And the reason I'm saying they may look totally different is like, for example, you know, a teacher may on Monday say, this is what I need to have you to have done before we have a Zoom meeting on Wednesday. So they may not see that teacher for a couple of days.
Oh, okay.
So there's going to be situations like that, but they're going to be doing something every day, and they're going to be scheduled meetings and things of that sort, and there's going to be communication back and forth between the teachers and the students. So their day, you know, even though they're going to be quote in school every day through the virtual program, their day may look totally different depending on what is scheduled during that day. Like, for example, you know, like even in colleges, students are in school most of the time, if they show up, most of the time every day, but their days are different depending on how their schedules are lined up. And that's how it's going to be a lot in the virtual school.
Now, a lot of schools that are doing the virtual classes, I guess when they're doing the actual Zoom part, are requiring a dress code. You don't show up in your jammies and things like that.
They don't
Are you
need
guys
to do
having
that.
to do that
Yeah,
too?
they don't need to show up in their pajamas, and they don't need to. The thing is even when it's virtual, even though they might be at home, they're going to school. I mean, they're going to school.
Mhm.
And part of going to school is that, you know, part of it is that you need to understand how to adapt to societal norms and things of that sort. And, you know, and my issue is we want our students to be individuals, but at the same time, be responsible. You know, and the thing here is that, you know, they need to dress appropriately, and when they're on the Zoom, they need to conduct themselves appropriately. You know, because they're going to school. Even though it's a virtual format, they're going to school.
Yeah.
What, now anybody who had kids in the Pell City school system last year knew that Dr. Martin is a stickler on attendance.
Yes, I am.
So what's the, you know, if how are you going to work that this year with sicknesses and virtual and all that stuff?
Well, what we have is like in the, there is an attendance requirement on the virtual program, and that will be communicated to our folks forthcoming. Also at the fact of this, the state has actually put in a special attendance code for people who may be sent home due to exposures and things of that sort.
Mhm.
So that will not be counted, quote, as a traditional absence. Now, if they just don't show up, then that's a traditional absence.
Mhm.
But, you know, if there's been an exposure or something of that sort and they're at home, there is a special attendance code that we have to code students for that. The state has actually created that, which I'm glad, because the fact of the matter is we're gonna have a lot of that. And we're going to have to be willing to work with people to get through this thing, because we're gonna have a lot of those types of situations that's gonna occur.
I want to know who's going to have to fill out the perfect attendance sheets this year
Yes.
and determine whether how you get to that or not.
I know, it's gonna be, everything is a challenge, but I will tell you one thing I am very grateful for. Throughout this whole summer, as we've been getting ready for this school year, we've had teachers at our schools working very hard, trying to get ready, trying to prepare. Our principals and all of our school personnel, they have been at schools working hard. You know, we really, and I will say this, our entire team has stepped up. I can't say enough good about the entire Pell City Schools team. They have truly stepped up. We have a group of folks from our ministerial alliance that are actually right now, you know, Gary Mazingo in our maintenance department has been working on these desk partitions, and our ministerial alliance has chipped in, and they're actually helping us complete those too. So those things are being finished up. Probably as I'm right now on the radio, they're working on those, and I just can't say enough good things about all of our members of our team stepping up and trying to make sure our kids are coming back to a school climate that's safe and healthy. You know, I will tell you this is, you know, it's a challenge to start a school year every year. Every year is a challenge, but this year it's added it into a high octane type mode.
Mhm.
So it is, every year is a challenge, but the thing here is you know, we're dealing with something that the last time they had a pandemic in this world was 1918. And I don't know how they dealt with it in 1918, but I wish there was somebody around here that I could talk to about that. Yeah.
Adam and I were talking earlier, and I said, you know, we're in month 5 of what was supposed to be just a 2-week
That's correct.
situation. So the end of last year, the beginning of this year, it's just been a complete step-by-step learning curve for the education system specifically. My question here is, okay, so typically in a school year, you have your holidays, your
Yes.
Thanksgiving and your Christmas. Are you still going to acknowledge those breaks or not now because of the way things have maybe could get shortened school year? Who knows what's going to happen type thing.
Well, what we're doing is, like, for example, when we adjusted our calendar, we have like remote learning days during some holidays already, but we're still going to observe those holidays where students are not going to have to physically be at the school. And what we're trying to do is if we have any disruption to the school year, is to go straight to that blended model. And the reason we're going straight to that blended model is because the fact of the matter is, we do not wanna have it where we're piecemealing a school year. Cause it's gonna be a challenge enough as it is, on our families and on our employees, and we're trying to do everything we can to keep that from happening.
Talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, Superintendent of the Pell City School System, again on Facebook Live. You can go back and watch this interview at any time you want. You can watch it in pieces, whatever. There's a lot of questions that Dr. Martin has answered. Going back to attendance, and we had somebody ask, what about when your kid has a sniffle or a cough? It's a total different ballgame now. Do you need a doctor's note? Do you need to, going to the doctor now is a risk going to the doctor if you can get in
Yes.
there. So how is the school system handling that?
Okay, what they need to do in any of these cases is make sure they communicate with the school. And the thing here is that I think, and this is something that we've been very fortunate of, even when we've done summertime athletics. We've had kids that have said that they've had, that like somebody in their family has had COVID, then we tell the kid to stay at home. It's just communication here, and that's the thing, is they need to communicate with the school. We can't do anything about something we don't know anything about. And in this case, it's more, I would say it's even more important than it was before in communicating with the school. One of the things that we've had in the past, and this has been a big issue, attendance has been historically a problem in Pell City. And it concerns me when you have kids that, we've had kids in our school system that have missed 40 days of school. That's almost an entire grading period, and mom can't understand why the child is being retained. Well, they missed a fourth of the school year, and then they can't understand why they're an attendance why you're saying they're an attendance problem. That would be equivalent to somebody missing 1.5 days of their, roughly 1.5 days of their week every week for work. I don't know how long they'd keep a job if they did that.
Why are you kidding me?
I'm just kidding.
What in the world?
How about drop-off lines, pickup lines? How will those work this year?
Okay, and we're working those very similar to what we did last year. I know Kennedy has been communicating, Walter M. Kennedy Elementary School, they're redoing their drop-off and pickup lines, but they're very similar to what they've been in the past. The thing here is your schools will be communicating that information to you, but I do want to make sure that the folks who are going to Walter M. Kennedy know that there have been some changes to that pickup and drop-off there specifically.
Going in and bringing cupcakes to your kid for his birthday party, having lunch with him, that's out, right?
That is. And when we talked about the plan, I guess about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, it seems like it's been longer than that, but it's been roughly about that time. Unfortunately, we love our parents. We love having our parents involved. It's just we're going to have to do it a different way in how we go about it. But we can't allow people in and out of the schools like we did in the past, and be able to have a way to track, any exposures regarding the virus and things of that sort.
Talking with Dr. Jimmy Martin, Superintendent of the Pell City School System.
Okay, now a lot of places are doing the temperature checks before
Yes.
you go in. Is that something that the schools are going to be doing in Pell City this year?
Yeah, we're encouraging our parents to do temperature checks before they send their kids to school, but we're also doing them at school. Right now, in our elementary schools, we have purchased several hundred thermometers, those little forehead thermometers, and we're going to do temperature checks in our elementary schools. We're going to do those for the teachers, and the schools felt that they needed to do them themselves. And what we're doing at Williams and our junior highs and our high schools, we're actually putting in a thermal scan where you walk through and it measures about 30 people's temperature at one time, and when it reacts on a person that they feel has an elevated temperature, then that person, you check their temperature to make sure it's okay. But we're purchasing those.
Wow.
So we're doing that. And one thing somebody asked me, I had somebody ask me this question. They said, well, you're buying these things for the schools, but when this is over, you're not going to need them. Well, yeah, we can use them because you have the cold and flu season every year. And that would be something we could use, especially when we have a flu outbreak or anything down the road. It can kind of help us be a little more preventative on that end. So we're doing a lot of things right now. Like I said, the desk partitions, you know, the Ministerial Alliance is helping us. Gary Mazingo and his group have been doing great work on those. So there's a lot of things going on that we're doing right now to try to be as preventative as we can and as healthy as we can.
A couple more questions, and this is just for the first 9 weeks. You're gonna
Yes.
reevaluate and see what needs to happen, right?
Yes, and what we're gonna try to do is roughly, we're gonna try to probably within the first week of October, make a call on what we need to do from then till Christmas. You know, I will tell you this, even though I'm not a huge fan of the mask order personally, but however, I will tell you this, and that's just personally. I mean, I think it's important in a school because the fact is it is preventative. But we have found society-wise that the cases in Alabama are actually beginning to decline. They really are, and I think that is probably a good, the mask order was probably a good thing in that regard. We're beginning to see some effects of that, and I'm hoping by the time we get to early part of October, we can make a call at that point in time where we could possibly get all of our students back in the classroom like we need to and the way we want them to. But you know, the thing is we're willing to make the difficult decisions we have to make in order to keep everybody healthy and safe.
How about checking out your child? You got a doctor's appointment, you got an orthodontist, something like that. How does that happen?
Okay, and that's in our plan, also in our back to schools plan. But what we would like for the parents to do is to let us know in advance, and it could be 20 to 30 minutes before they show up to pick them up, so we can have them up there to get them.
All right. Anything you want to give websites again, where the calendar is, where information is, before we wrap up here?
Okay, and everything is on our webpage, pellcityschools.net, and everything is on there. And so we're trying, you know, the thing is just stay on that. And I will tell you, I know that we're communicating quite frequently with people over and over, and I'm hoping that that everybody's getting information they need. If not, let us know, because the fact is we want to try to do everything we can to help families in this whole process.
All right. Well, T-minus a week and a couple of days,
That's
right?
right. That's right. As a matter of fact, not this Friday, but next Friday, the 21st, we're going to be ready to roll.
And that's Group B that goes on Friday.
Yeah, that'll be grades 7 through 12 will be Group B, and then K through 6, pre-K through 6, it'll be everybody.
All right. And again, there's a lot of questions that were asked, especially in the latter part of the interview, that we answered in the beginning of the interview, so you can go back and you can get that information. And again, on our Facebook page, if you're not watching on there, if you're listening on the radio, 94.1 FM The River on Facebook. And we've got, almost about 50 minutes into the interview. So there's a lot of information out there. And if anybody has any questions, specifically, get a hold of your teacher, get a hold of your principal. Try to resolve it and don't turn into Karen on social media, and see if we can do it the old-fashioned way and talk your way through things.
And that's the thing too, is that, you know, I will tell you, if there's something out there we can do to provide information, please get with us. Please ask the questions, because the fact is, rather than going out there making assumptions, you know, ask the questions, because what you may be making an assumption about may be something that's quite simple and quite easy to understand. And the fact is that, you know, and talk to the people, you know, talk to the people at the schools. I mean, they will provide the information you need. And I know this is that we're trying to work with people as much as we can. However, there are situations where we can't go outside of certain parameters, you know, due to things that are beyond our control. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we have as good a school year as we can. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see kids back in schools. It's been a long time since March 13th. And I miss seeing our kids in schools. I miss seeing our teachers teach them. I've always said, anytime you have a bad day, you go to a kindergarten classroom and you understand why why you're doing what you're doing, because those kids are excited about learning and excited about being in school.
Yeah, especially excited about cookies and nap time with the nap man. Dr. Martin, as always, we appreciate you coming up, and you always have an open mic anytime you guys need to put anything out.
All right, thank y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you a bunch.
All right, again, you can watch it on our Facebook page, which is 94.1 FM, The River on Facebook. If you're listening on the radio, we got 21 minutes after 9 o'clock. Going to check your headlines out. We got Paul Harvey's The Rest of the Story coming your way in about 30 minutes. Brought to you by the law firm of Pruitt, Tedisco, and Richardson.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me stop this over here.
Cool.